I love the sound of the M-VAVE Mini Universe reverb and the elemental delay, but unfortunately, they still look too cheap for my board. Well, not anymore. Check out how I did this awesome recasing. What's up fellow budget tone chasers, to one more video here at the channel. Today I'm bringing the first DIY project for those who wish to navigate the area of handmade pedals. A 2-in-1 pedal recasing, of course, make it look much more high-ending. For this project I decided to elevate the application of two wonderful sounding pedals, which had not that high-ending enclosure. I am talking about the M-VAVE Mini Universe Reverb and its younger brother, the M-VAVE Elemental Delay. For that, we'll use only items found at AliExpress, so if you'd like to do the same, you'll be able to find all the shopping list at the description of this video. For this project, I got inspired on the famous Walrus audio SLARP, which combines two amazing ambience machines in a single enclosure, with high-ending quality and unique visuals. So for our new pedal, I looked for an enclosure which would resemble the Walrus audio SLARP, which was the Hammond Standard Enclosure 1590XX. Which measures 145 by 121 and 35 mm. With a quick check, it was possible to confirm that everything would fit inside perfectly. Then it was time to start planning how to deal with the implications of having a single enclosure pedal, without needing to heavily mod the original pedal, as I could decide to reverse it in the future and use the enclosure for another project. In this sense, the first challenge was to create a way to feed both pedals with a single 9V input. In addition, I would also need to internally route the output from the elemental delay straight into the input of the Mini Universe. One point that I was not so sure was about keeping exposed the USB-C feeding port for both pedals, and after coming to the conclusion that I hardly use it, I decided to keep it intact but hidden inside the single enclosure. But that was not all. In order to have a high-end looking pedal, it would be more necessary to put more than cheap plastic knobs and a clean aluminum enclosure, so it was time to start thinking on how to make the pedal look better on its external part. With the same logic, I referred to my inspiration, the SLARP. So the first thing I knew I would like to have in my new pedal was those beautiful black aluminum shiny knobs. They are gorgeous and resemble straight to Walrus audio. This was already making the project look better, but didn't solve all. It was really necessary to think in a way to cover this aluminum basic texture on the enclosure. The first thing which came to my mind was to paint it using the same finishing I already used on my Harley Benton DIY guitar kits, but without more than 1 minute searching the YouTube about how to paint aluminum enclosures with aluminum spray, I already understood that it would be a huge fail. Especially with a pregnant woman at home and not having a luthier tool shop. So I started looking for some inspiration on different handmade pedal producers. I was looking for a solution literally for 2 months. Until I found something in a completely unexpected place, a handmade pedalboard Instagram profile. So thanks to Dr. Stan, I finally found what I was looking for. This beautiful black face amp Tolex texture. I got even more convinced after I found out about this beautiful clone pedal which he made for a custom board. So now, it was already looking feasible to have a good looking pedal, until the moment that I decided to search for the prices and availability of the Tolex. And man, no way. Back to stage 0, or maybe, let's try to find an alternative. The texture of the Tolex reminded me a lot about carbon fiber texture, which is often used to wrap sport cars. So maybe, oh, there it is! A good range of different beautiful textures already with adhesive properties. Could it be more perfect? Honestly, I don't think so. So now it was just buying it and waiting some weeks till it would get home. The concept was closed. After some weeks, it was time to put hands on. With all parts at home, it was time to prepare the working bench. For this time, just few simple tools. A hand drill with 3 regular drills, 3mm, 4.5mm and 7mm, and for the bigger holes, a conic step drill. In order to make the mods internally, for the power supply, I needed only a simple 9V input jack, while for the P10 jacks, I decided to make something easier and easily reversible. I simply ordered a hard patch plug. As an alternative, I thought about the possibility to simply wire the neutral and the hot terminals of both jacks using the external tips, but it was not necessary, as the hard plug fit perfectly and even helps the circuits to be more steady on the new enclosure, as both lose on lateral anchoring from the case. Now, it was time to start positioning the layout of my new creation, so I could mark it with the pencil and drill the holes on the aluminum enclosure. For that, I already disassembled the Mini Universe pedal and used its own enclosure as a template for the drilling, both in the front and on the sides, for the input and output jacks. With all the holes reference marked, it is time to make some noise. Before drilling the big holes, I decided to mark with a small puncture the center of the holes, and later, step by step increase it, using the step drills. I need to admit that after drilling the first hole, I noticed that the puncture was not helping at all, so I needed to trust my sight to guarantee that things were aligned and keep the drill as stable as I could. After drilling it all, it was time to check if the template was fitting to the circuit. But wait, the corners of the PCB were hitting the enclosure screw support. Luckily, there was not circuit path on the corners, so I simply cut the corners in order to let it fit. Awesome! It looks like everything fits and it doesn't look blocked. So now, it was time to make the first mod. Route the 9 volts feeding supply to both individual 9 volts feeding terminals. After some minutes searching the datasheet of the 9 volts deep jacks, I was finally able to identify which were the ground, negative and positive tips. So I decided to simply solder 2 jumper wires for each 9 volts terminal, guaranteeing that it would be a parallel feeding circuit. Important, notice that M-VAVE claims that both pedals require 300 mA for good functioning. But before starting the building of this pedal, I used the daisy chain on an isolated power supply and a single 300 mA output, and I was able to feed both pedals without generating noise, high-pitch winning, or any other issue. Anyway, if you try to do the same at your home, consider that the quality of the power supply can impact the final result of your small Frankenstein. After wiring it, finally the moment of the truth, and yes, it seems it works! Both foot switches work perfectly, engaging and disengaging the pedal, and even the tap tempo function works perfectly on the elemental side. Awesome! But how could it be sounding? It was time for a quick performance check before moving on. Beautiful! Everything works perfectly, no noise, just as it should. Now that it was technically approved, it was time to again disassemble and start the finishing process. Yes, there was no practical way to test it without soldering the 9 volts plug, so now, in order to disassemble it, we need again to unsolder the terminals. After watching more or less 2 hours of video tutorials on how to wrap your full Mercedes on carbon fiber style wrapping film, I decided to try my luck. As I saw that a good correction tool could be a heat gun, I decided to use the good and old hair dryer as an alternative. First struggle, unrolling the plastic film. After getting to the correct amount of film I was looking for, without losing much of the material, I simply cut it and removed the paper base of the sticker. To apply, it is theoretically simple, but requires lots of patience, and if I could suggest you, try to work with 2 people. I didn't have this privilege, and recording the video, things got even more complicated. The consequence was some bubbles on the finishing, which could be easily removed raising the film and reapplying it, but honestly, I didn't see much value added, as this was my first try in this task, and I was planning to cover part of the area which the bubbles remained with leather tags. Remember Dr. Stan? Yeah, I still didn't give up that look. Good! Once I put in practice all my advanced gift wrapping skills, I moved ahead with the wrapping of the back plate and finally started reopening the holes on the enclosure. Now it was time, reassembling the circuit inside, rewiring the 9 volt plugs, and finally assembling the knobs. For the knobs, the only challenging point is to identify the correct coarse starting point in order to have a symmetric indication of the knob. Once you do it 2 or 3 times, the others will get easier. It is done! The elementary universe is ready for a sound check. I simply love how it ended, and the sound was simply as good as I expected. The combination of those two pedals is awesome, and having both in a high-end enclosure makes me wish to use them even more in my professional board. This is only my opinion and my own experience, but now I would like to hear from you. What would you do differently? Did you like the end result? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if this content was helpful to you somehow, please consider subscribing to the channel, hitting the like button so YouTube will deliver this video to many other people, and becoming a member of the channel so we can fund many other projects like this one. In return, you get access to special perks, which the most wanted one are the gear giveaways. You can become a member reading the QR code on the corner of this video or by clicking join below. I'll catch you on the next. Keep on rocking!